Welcome to the premiere, the debut podcast episode of Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. My name is Brad McCulka, and I am the old man in the title of this podcast. Now, age is only a number. I realize that. I just turned 60 this year, well, last year. So I am almost a senior citizen, but my mentality, I'm like 12. So age is only a number, like I said. A lot of people have asked me, okay, two people have asked me that's not important how many, but people have asked me, why don't I do a podcast? We have been doing this, me and my wife Brenda, we are co-directors of the Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunter Society. We've been doing it, and by it I mean investigations, 29 years this year. 29 years. When we first started, there were 3 groups in the state of Michigan. We are the only one left of the original 3. And yes, with the TV shows, the haunting TV shows, paranormal TV shows, the interest has increased in the paranormal field, ghost hunting, all that kind of stuff. However, as there are more groups in Michigan, our investigations have dropped a little bit. We are still active. We still do investigations. We just don't do as many as we did at one time. Back in the day, years ago, we would do 2 or 3 a month, and we were backing people up on hold for investigations 2 or 3 months in advance because we were that busy to do investigations. We have been all over the place. Like I said, we have been doing this for 29 years. We have been here in the U.S., we've done some in Europe, and we've been some of the most famous places. I will be the first to admit I was a Ghost Adventures groupie back when they first started, but now it's just the show has gotten too out there. It's like every show Zach gets possessed, and to me it's not real. It's TV. I realize that. So we used to go to the places that they went to. We've been to Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Louisville, Kentucky. We have been to the Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa. We've been to the Queen Mary. We've been Lizzie Borden's house. We've been to the Ohio State Mansfield Prison in Ohio. So we've been to a lot of places. So I'm sure that some of my opinions will piss a lot of people off. And you know what? I welcome any feedback. Anybody has an opinion. It basically is what it is. So this episode here, it's not going to be exciting. It's going to be just basically a little background about the group, how we started, and the future episodes will be talking about anything paranormal. And we have tons of stories to tell, investigations we have done, things that have happened, some of our experiences. So I will touch on that in future podcast episodes. But I figured if someone's going to talk about a podcast about the paranormal, you should know a little bit about the history of the group and on our. I don't want to say street credentials, but I mean anybody can. Like I said, anybody can get a couple of pieces of equipment, doing investigations, and call themselves paranormal investigators. It it, it makes them paranormal investigators, but it's the experience of doing investigations that basically makes you a good paranormal investigation team. Now, I'm not saying that if you're starting out, you're not a good team. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that it's possible to make things worse at an investigation. Let's say if a house and you try to clean the house, you've never cleaned the house before. You don't know what you're doing. You could actually make things worse. Excuse me. So with that being said, again, we have been doing this year is 29 years. 29 years. And like I said, we've had done a lot of investigations. I have written books on the subject of the paranormal. My last book came out last year, and it was called Haunted Michigan Graveyards. And it's on, I think it's called Haunted Press. It's part of Arcadia, but it's called Haunted Press. It's available any place. You can get Barnes and Noble has them in store. I go to our mall store here in Lansing. I guess I should say that we are based in Lansing, Michigan. Even though our name says Southeast Michigan, we are actually in Lansing, which is not Southeast Michigan if you know the state of Michigan. So I guess let me go to start how we got to be part of this group. And before I do that, though, one thing is we are not paranormal experts, and I absolutely, absolutely hate that expression, paranormal expert. I know people, well, I know one person in particular that's been on TV. I won't say who he is. He was not in the paranormal field. He had some other field, but now he's on TV as a paranormal expert. Okay, he's not a paranormal expert. So, paranormal expert means that you know everything there is to know about the paranormal. And nobody, I don't care who you are, nobody knows everything there is to know about the paranormal. Paranormal is not an exact science. It's learn as you go. And like I said, we've been doing this for 29 years. We still learn on our investigations. And we try to go once a year as a group to different places. Like I said, Waverly Hills, Villisca, Iowa, the prison in Mansfield, Ohio. So we try to do at least one trip a year. And it's not easy anymore because a lot of our core people in our group have become friends of ours and they have kids now. So the kids are more, not necessarily more important, but takes more of your time. And we understand that. So it's not like, oh my God, he can't come. We totally understand. We had kids too growing up. They're now in their 20s, so that's not a problem, whatever. So basically, like I said, how the group started was I was at work years and years and years and years ago. About 20, oh, let's say, I would say it was about 20, well, actually, you know what, maybe about 26, 27 years ago. And I was at work, and I'm not where I'm at currently, but it was some other position. I worked on third shift, so we had a lot of time to be on the internet and stuff. And I think I did a search for Michigan ghost hunters or ghost hunting in Michigan, something to that effect. And I found this group, Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunters Society. So I, clicked on the link and it came up. And the person that was running it was a gentleman named Bill Rhodes, and he was in Troy. So hence the name Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunter Society, because he was based in Troy. Well, I signed up to do an investigation. I think it was in a local graveyard, I believe. I'm not entirely sure on that. So I got on the team for that investigation, and before we could even go on, or I could go on one investigation, he had posted that he was leaving to go back to his home state of Illinois, and he needed someone, or he was looking for someone to take over the group. So here I am, not knowing anything about. I mean, I knew about the paranormal stuff, and I'll get to that in a second. But it was like I don't know anything about the equipment. All we had was a camera at the time, and this is before digital cameras were as popular and as cheap as they were now or are now. So all we had was a film camera, and if you know, the film cameras were expensive. The film was expensive. The processing was expensive. And if you took out, did a graveyard, and all you did was pictures of tombstones, if you didn't get anything in those pictures, you just blew a godly amount of money to do investigations. So that's all that we had. So he basically wanted me to take over. And well, actually, at first, let me go back a little bit. He wanted someone to take over, so I'm like, hey, sure, dude, I'll take it over, not knowing anything about websites, web hosting, editing equipment, HTML. I knew nothing about that whatsoever. But I figured, what the hell? So I took it over, and basically we're at where we are at now. 29 years. When we first started, like I said, we had a regular film camera. Now we have, like, we ourselves, other team members have their own equipment too, but we have ourselves, we have a four static cameras hooked up to a DVR system, so it records directly to the actual DVR. We have a TV as a screen to view all four cameras. We have a thermal imaging camera. We have the prerequisite tape recorders. I have an EVP watch, which the EVP watch, the idea is to record real time EVP instead of having to have a tape recorder, do an EVP session when you're on site. After you did your EVP session, play back your tape recorder to see if you got anything. Well, the idea of an EVP watch is it records in real time. You have little earbuds on, so it records in real time. So you can listen to potential EVPs as they happen. Now that did happen to us one time. We were doing an investigation in Lorain, Ohio, at the St. Joseph Hospital. It had closed years before. They offered investigations, so we did a private investigation there. We were up in the psych ward, I do believe, and I heard in real time on my EVP watch an EVP that we had got. And when we played back our tape, you could hear me saying, I heard that on my watch. So that works. We have thermal imaging cameras. We have a drone that we haven't really played with, but this year hopefully we can experiment with that a little bit and work on that a little bit. We have a bear called LB. He's a teddy bear that is basically made for paranormal investigations. It detects vibration, temperature change, movement, and touch. Now, he doesn't record directly himself, so you need a tape recorder to be by him, but it does work. We've had good results with this, and we call him LB. And we do presentations we do presentations all year round, but as you may guess, October is a busy time for us. So we do investigations in October, and we usually have kids there. And I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, but we have teens, early teens there in attendance. So I call him LB. If there's no kids there, little bear. If there is kids there, little bastard, because he does not stop talking. And I will talk about that in how we got to name him LB in future episodes. I don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. We are now experimenting with a SLR camera that, if you're familiar, uses a Xbox 360 Connect hooked up to a handheld camera, I guess, that has a tablet so you can see the results. And it basically, the algorithm, it makes something that it sees as a human, it puts a stick figures to it. And that actually happened. We got something at Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky, which I will get to that, like I said, in future episodes. So basically, we have all the equipment, but sometimes you don't rely on the equipment entirely. Oh, we do have a Frank's box, which I'm on the fence about that. We have a full spectrum camera. Actually, we have two full spectrum cameras. We have a regular point and shoot camera, of course, and we have a video camera that also records in the full spectrum. I am sorry. I just got over a cold. I'm sorry, not a cold. I have a sore throat, so sometimes it feels kind of scratchy, so I apologize for that. I'm not too hip on editing yet, so I'm going to try to make these podcasts in one recording. I don't know how to edit yet, and maybe I'll get to know how to edit here in the future. My wife did get me for Christmas a sound box, so I can do things like this in the future. Hey, how do you like the podcast? I know, corny as hell, but you know what? Corny sometimes is cute and fun. So I got things like that I can play with in future podcasts. Excuse me again, I have a sore throat. So people have always asked me how we got started, or how I got started in the paranormal. And this is actually a lot of people a lot of people at our presentations ask me how I got started. Well, how I got started is when I was a kid. I grew up in a haunted house. Now I don't remember too much about it. I was a little kid, so I don't remember too much about it. But growing up, I would talk to my mom and dad, obviously, and they would tell me stories. And then my aunt would come over, my aunt Sharon would come over. She would tell me stories. Oh, when I was there, this happened. When I was there, this happened. My Uncle Bill told me stories. Well, again, when I was there, this happened. When I was here, all this happened. So that kind of like, piqued my interest in the paranormal, ghost hunting, haunted houses, whatever you want to call it. And so growing up, I read like all the books, and the first picture that I remember was a famous picture. It was taken somewhere over in London. I'm sorry, well, I don't think it was specifically London. I think it was somewhere in the UK, and it was called The Brown Lady. And the Brown Lady, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this, that the one or two that are listening to this, are not nodding their head in agreement. It's a well-known picture. It was taken, like, I think in the 30s or 40s, I do believe, maybe 50s. It shows like a grand staircase of this mansion, and it shows this. You can see like a transparent figure coming down the staircase per se. She's not walking down the staircase, but you can see like the outline of her in the actual staircase. So that's what. So that was the first picture that I remember as from my youth as a real picture of a ghost. Now there's also it's an old rectory that is torn down. Actually, it burned down in I believe this was in England. It was called the Borley Rectory, and they have seen apparitions of a nun walking the grounds. There was a famous picture of a brick that was tossed in the air, and the photograph shows the brick in the air, just going across, 3D in the air without any strings or anything, whatever. And so basically, that's what got my interest peaked. And growing up, I continued to read books, see TV movies. The Ghost of Flight 401 is a good one. It's about Eastern Airlines that crashed in the Florida Everglades back in early 70s. That was haunted. I'm sorry, the plane itself wasn't haunted, but the parts that they took parts off of the crashed airlines and put them on flying, the Eastern planes that were still flying. So like let's say that a oven in the kitchen on one airline on one plane quit working, they would take one that was salvaged from the one that crashed, and they put it in this other plane. Well, whatever they basically realized that whatever parts were taken from the flight 401 that crashed, that was put in service in other airplanes, they would see the first officer, and one of the cockpit voice recorders actually picked him up. So they couldn't hide the fact no more that this was a possibility. But when they removed all of the parts that were salvaged from Flight 401 off these other planes, the haunting stopped. So that was an interesting story. They remade the movie. I think it came out a couple years ago. It wasn't too good. I didn't care for it. I know that books and movies, or movies and books, when they get rebooted, whatever. But this didn't. I didn't care for it, too much. So basically, so that's what got me interested in the paranormal. And when I had a chance to get this group, or join the group back in the day, I jumped at the chance. Now, when we first started, our group, having how can I say this? Having a group just starting out is like having a credit card. You can't get credit unless you have credit. Well, with us, you couldn't get a house investigation unless you had a house investigation. So it was really tough when we first started out. It was really tough to get a investigation in the house. So a lot of times we did just graveyards, which you know what, I love a graveyard. Honestly, I prefer to do a graveyard over a house or a building. To me, like I said, I like having that quiet, that serene, all the history and stuff of that particular graveyard. So I would prefer a good graveyard over a house investigation any time of the week. We have been on TV, like I said. We were on a TV show called A Haunting. We were also on a DVD called A Haunting on Hamilton Street. And I'll tell you one thing right now is a lot of people, actually not a lot of people, I'm sorry, a lot of like movie stars, they don't like to hear their own voices on TV. I'm starting to be the same way. It's like I have done, like I said, I have done interviews, here in Lansing, interviews, Channel 6, Fox 47, and newspaper articles, and like I said, the TV show, the DVD. And to be honest with you, hearing my own voice right now as I'm talking to you guys is mortifying. It's horrifying. I don't like it. I don't like the sound of my own voice. Um, yeah. So it's like it's kind of funny that I don't like to hear my own voice, but I'm doing a podcast, which is basically me talking about stuff, and I have to hear my own voice. So that's kind of surreal to me, but that is what it is. I realize that the ages of Facebook, I'm sorry, not Facebook, the years of websites showing our pictures and stuff is websites are still relevant for certain things, but I think now you have Facebook, you have YouTube channels, which we have our own YouTube channel, and on that channel we have posted videos. We travel quite a lot. We try to wrap around like investigations or haunted locations around our family vacations. We don't really take family vacations anymore because our kids have grown and moved out of the house. They have their own houses now, own lives. But when they were still, living at home, we always called ourselves, or our kids always called ourselves the Griswolds, because we don't go from point A to point B. We go to point A, point B, point C, point D, point D, and end up where we're going. Case in point, we were going to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and we were we have been there many, 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 many times. So we usually come down, hit the turnpike, go through Ohio into Pennsylvania, through Harrisburg, Gettysburg. Well, this trip we decided to go to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to find the Mothman. And whether or not you believe in the Mothman, there's a popular thing there in town. So we started out here in Lansing. We went to we stayed just outside of Columbus, and surprisingly, our hotel was right next to a cemetery. Go figure. So we ate at I think it was Big Boy. No, it wasn't Big Boy. It was Bob Evans. We ate at Bob Evans. Took the kids, and then this time, and when I say kids, I'm loosely saying kids. They were in their teens. They were most likely around 14, 15 years old. So we dropped them off at the hotel. Well, we parked. We went into the hotel, got them into our room, and me and Brenda went across the street to that actual graveyard, and we took some pictures and all that kind of stuff. And then we went from, and then the following day we got up, of course, and then we went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We spent 2 days in Point Pleasant. We were going to spend more, but there was a little miscommunication, air quotes, with the hotel people. And then we were going to Gettysburg. Well, before we did that, we noticed that only 2 hours away in Weston, West Virginia, is the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. So why not? So we stopped there and we took a tour. And our tour guide Lawrence, he heard us talking when we paid for our tickets. He heard us talking to the people at the front desk. So when he got us, he goes, I told them I wanted you guys because you told them that you were, paranormal investigators. I'm like, yes, we are. So and we were on kind of like a tight schedule to make it to our hotel on time, I guess. Well, the 45-minute paid tour that we took ended up being an hour and a half tour because of what we did, paranormal investigators. He took us on parts of the buildings that weren't part of the 45-minute tour. So we took the tour, got some good pictures, heard some pretty good stories. And then we left Weston and going to Pennsylvania. Hey, we're close to Antietam, the actual battlefield Antietam. Have not been there before, so we stopped. We took half a day. We stopped in Antietam. We spent the night in a hotel in Antietam, and then the following day we ended up in Gettysburg. So that just that's I wanted to show you guys that we are like the Griswolds. Point A to point B does not happen. It's A, B, C, D. So we took like 3 or 4 stops from our house to get to our final stop in Pennsylvania. And I'll tell stories about our time there on the actual battlefield. We had some experiences in the museum. I got an EVP at Triangular Field. Hopefully, I can incorporate that into this. If I do learn how to edit and add and insert and stuff, maybe I can add the EVP into it. It's a pretty cool EVP. So basically, that's in a short amount of time explains what we do, what we have done, and like I said, we are not paranormal experts by any stretch of the means. Um, and my opinion, don't take it as gospel. Don't take it as, oh, what he says is 100% real, because I don't know everything. Some people might say that I do, but I don't know everything. So I just wanted to basically set the stage for what was coming up. And again, it's the title is Talking Paranormal. So I kind of want to keep it paranormal-ish. Like I said, we have tons and tons of stories to tell. Talk about our investigations. Talk about our books that I can tell you a little bit about those. How that was. I want to take because not everyone's been on TV. I want to take one episode to talk about our TV show, A Haunting, that we were on. It was season 3, episode 3 is called The Attic. If you ever get a chance, I know it's on reruns on TV. I do believe it's on YouTube. I mean, almost anything you can get is on, yet you want is on YouTube. I'm thinking about writing a book. Well, I'm going to write a book. What happened over in a small town in Bath? The school a Bath school bombing that happened there. So I got things, working and stuff. I'm planning on doing a documentary on Bath. What happened. I'm not no expert on Bath, but I know quite a bit about what happened over there. It's not just what the school blew up. I'm sorry, move on. No, it goes deeper into that. I could do probably a good hour just talking about Bath, what happened over there, and when we have been over there many, 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 many times. I do have a book coming out. I'm not for sure when that's a long story in itself, but I just sent the final edit to my editor back in November, early November is when that happened. So that and my last book with that publisher, which is Schiffer Books, that came out. Well, I sent the final edit. I want to say in August or September, and it came out the following June or July. So I'm thinking this book here, and it's called Paranormal Encounters. It's about things that happened to us that we didn't expect. We were not doing investigations. We were not doing anything group-wise. We were just as a family shopping, taking a trip out west to California. We had experience Alcatraz, the Queen Mary, just places that are haunted, but we weren't expecting to have a haunting experience, but we did. We went to Europe, well, twice now in the past couple of years, but had an experience over there at one of the places. So I have, like I said, talking paranormal with the old man, and nobody will what's that what I'm thinking of? No one will uh, say that you're a liar when I say I can talk. I have a lot to say. Um, I don't shut up very easily. So so people argue. That's what word I was trying to think of. That people will not argue with you when you say, "God damn, he can talk." I can't talk. Uh, I enjoy talking about the paranormal. I enjoy talking about our experiences, and it's not. It might sound like it's our group or me, but it's not that. I have a passion for the paranormal, and I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy sharing stories of our investigations with people that have an interest that might not want to do something on their own. Either they don't have I don't want to say they're scared, but they're more comfortable watching it on TV than going into a place that's haunted by themselves or with a group that they might experience something and they might not be able to handle it per se. So again, this is the premiere episode. I'm hoping to have more. Like I said, I was a little hesitant at first because, like I said, I don't like to hear myself talk. But it's not too bad. It's just I can learn how to hear myself talk, I guess, and how I sound like a freaking dork. But anyways, that's not here or there. So I will close out this episode here. Again, this is episode 1, and it's just basically an introduction to the group, just our credibility. I think that's important. That if you're going to talk about paranormal or have a podcast about the paranormal, that you have some kind of credibility. We aren't just some flash in the pan group that, like I said, we've been doing this for like 2 years, and I'm going to talk about the paranormal. No, like I said, we've been doing this for a long time. So with that being said, I think that I'm going to end this podcast. See, I knew that this little soundboard would come in handy. I can cheer myself off. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you are listening. I will have links on our Facebook page. It's Southeast Michigan Ghost Hunters Society. You can click on the link there. I think I'm hosting it. I have 2 places I'm thinking about hosting it. One is Podbeam and one is Spotify. So I don't know if they will advertise it or not. I'm not for sure. But if you're following us on Facebook, we'll have the link on there. I'm about ready to lose my voice. So without any further ado, I will end this podcast. And thank you for listening. And if you have any comments, I'm not for sure if podcast or Spotify has places for comments. But if you do, please leave comments. I'm open to criticism. I might not take them. No, just kidding. I will read anything that's there, comments, how I can improve this, what more that you guys want to hear. I'm open to any suggestions whatsoever. Like I said, this is all new to me. I can do YouTube channel. Like I said, we have one. I can do HTML keying now because I know how to do that too. But podcast is something new to me. So any suggestions to make this better? Stop using the soundboard, stop using the cheers, stop using anything that I'm going to use here in the future. Like I said, please, feel free if there is comments, leave a comment. Constructive comments will always be good. You can only get better, I guess. There's always room for improvement. So again, thank you for listening. I hope to have this every Sunday. That's about the only time that during the week that I have time to sit here and talk to the internet, I guess, or wherever, wherever. I don't know, dude. This is like so many terms and everything. So, but with that, like I said, without further ado, I will end this. Again, thanks for listening, and stay away from the light. Thank you. Goodbye.